This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
But there's going to be one team that's going to play solely as a team. No man is more important than the team. No coach is more important than the team. The team, the team, the team.
Looks deep for Anthony Clark. Waits for it. Yes, caught.
They said you can't beat Ohio State. Now what?
Brady gets terrific. Throws it, and in. Touchdown, Knight again. Schultz just before Brazil got him. And a leaping interception by Woodson.
Harbaugh back to throw over the middle. Caught by Collier at the 5 on his feet. Touchdown, Michigan. On its way. It's good.
He's 5'7", 179 pounds, a junior at Michigan. But Jamie Morris packs a wall of it, and he delivers for Bo Schembechler.
And here's your first play. Pressure coming. Sack. It is Glenn Steele, number 81, who fought his way through the traffic.
Option. And Robinson calls his own number, and he's going to score. Oh, an easy touchdown for Robinson and Michigan.
We're going to win the championship again because we're going to play as a team. And when we play as a team and the old season is over, you and I know it's going to be Michigan again. Michigan.
The hammer falls on Bucknuts, Sparties, and losers everywhere. Greetings. Welcome to a special edition of Michigan Podcast. Instant reaction to the day that shall live in infamy if you're in an online cult or your name is Brohio. The final report from the NCAA has come down, though something tells me this will not be the final word. In fact, I expect Michigan to appeal for reasons I'll get into here in a second. But just to recap, in case you missed it, Michigan facing a series of recruiting restrictions that really mean absolutely nothing. They added a game to Sherrone Moore's suspension. They accepted the 2 games, but then added a 3rd game at some point in 2026. And then Michigan has been fined $20 million, but that's going to come via not receiving any postseason money for the next 2 years. And last year, Big Ten teams received roughly $12 million or so per team from postseason revenue. A 10-year show cause for Jim Harbaugh, an 8-year show cause for Connor Stallions. And that is it. And you might be wondering, wait a minute, what about that Chris Partridge guy that lost his job for telling Michigan players how to lie to the NCAA investigators? He's not mentioned? Oh, we'll get to that. But here are my key takeaways from today's news. Number 1, this needs to be addressed mentally and spiritually. Too many Bucknuts are in a cult. You're just straight up in a cult, man, and you're going to prove it with the way what you're about to post in the comments right now, right this minute. Back away from the keyboard because you're just going to prove me right. If today doesn't back you away from the cognitive dissonance and groupthink that is making y'all miserable, then I've got nothing left other than enjoy your forthcoming Hail Bop climax, man. You're sad. Stop it. Now, to the report itself, number 2. Like I just said, the recruiting penalties are an absolute nothing burger. Nobody is going to say, Savion Hyder's not going to say, well, I was going to take Larry Ellison's money, but, Sherrone Moore didn't text me on February 13th. No one's saying that. Complete nothing burger. The fine isn't really a fine. Like Michigan's not paying it now. It's more of a lien against future earnings that Michigan has not even collected yet. But again, I expect that to be appealed. And at least I got to say this, though. At least we're going to pay $20 million to beat our biggest rival, unlike what Ohio State paid that roster last year just to lose to the worst Michigan quarterbacking, since Bo wasn't even trying to throw. So that's cool. Number 3, The most serious penalties now are because of Sherrone Moore's actions in the aftermath, the deleting of the text. And then he wasn't exactly, according to the NCAA, forthcoming about why he deleted it or that he did. If he never attempts to do those actions, especially in the light of the fact he had already been suspended, so he was already on the NCAA radar. If Sherrone never does that, then this looks even less like the hammer that was never forthcoming than it already does. This was, frankly, and I like Michigan's coach. I like Sherrone Moore. But, hey, man, he holds his players accountable. We got to hold coach accountable here. If he never does this, that's a self-own. And kind of demanded that the NCAA act and gave the NCAA the wherewithal to do so. So that's really the most serious thing that comes out of the report. Number 4, Michigan mishandled much of this defense. And it should have attacked the merit of the allegations from the jump. Now, it eventually did so. Late last year, we saw the report from its attorneys and the response to the NCAA Committee on Infractions. It did so at the hearing in June, but it waited a little too long to get there, and I'll tell you more about that in a minute. But if you look overall at how weak the case and penalties are, even with Michigan mismanaging this situation, imagine if Michigan were on the right message at the start, how much weaker it would have looked. Would it have even gotten this far at all? 5, to that end, the NCAA kept saying that Michigan did this for a competitive advantage. Of course it did. Everything we do is for a competitive advantage. That's why everyone watches film. Michigan, everyone recruits the best players it can. Michigan, everyone huddles so the other team can't hear your play. Michigan, everyone hires the best coaches it can, scouts the other team by watching film. Everything is for a competitive advantage. That's not a standard. And that's the standard that was articulated throughout much of the NCAA report. Well, Michigan did this for a competitive advantage. Of course, everything is done for a competitive advantage. That's a fallacy. The real question, competitive advantage doesn't prove cheating. The meaning of the rule does. And that brings me to number 6. Michigan waited a year too long to challenge the definition and spirit of the in-person scouting rule that it was alleged to have broken. To the point, it was buried by messaging so bad that the scandal to this very day is called Signgate, even though it breaks no rules to steal your opponent's signs. 7, this entire story, let's take a step back and remember what this entire story is. It's because Connor Stalions acquired information it breaks no rules to have. It breaks no rule. Well, he was sitting there by Jesse Minter. Well, he was the sign stealer. Of course he was there by the defensive coordinator. He was stealing the signs. That's why you're sign stealer at Ohio State's by the coaches too. So he acquired information it breaks no rules to have. He did it via a public forum using devices the rest of the public has and is in possession of at the exact same public forum. Didn't bug anybody, in other words. Didn't hack into anything. He brought a mobile phone into a game, him and his, scouts, his mom, his buddy. They brought mobile phones into games that are public forums everyone else can get into, bought a ticket like everybody else, and brought a phone into the game like everybody else did. Michigan should have made the NCAA defend the spirit of that rule from the get-go. How is that even enforceable? Because anybody could be sitting in the stands, tens of thousands of people holding the same kind of device, pointing it right at the exact same activity on the sidelines and posting that online anytime they want. Michigan should have made them defend the spirit of this rule from the get-go, but it didn't. Speaking of defenses, though, the exonerations of Tim Smith, who was falsely identified as the Uncle Tim supplying the money for this, the Michigan booster, he essentially got blackballed. And then there's Chris Partridge. He lost a job. They've been completely exonerated by this report today. And that likely means there's more to come in this story, and some folks better lawyer up, I'm guessing. For they are likely to become defendants both in the court of public opinion and actual court themselves here pretty soon. For example, Partridge was exonerated despite the most serious allegations against a Michigan official since the investigation started that he told players before the Maryland game. Remember, the story came out the week of the Michigan State game at the end of October. It was the day before the Maryland game, the penultimate game of the year, 3 weeks later, that Partridge was let go for specifically coaching players on how to lie to the NCAA. He was let go for that. He lost a job over that. His reputation was ruined over that, and yet he's nowhere to be found anywhere in this report whatsoever. Which begs an obvious question. If they were wrong on Chris Partridge, what else were they wrong about? I think we're probably about to find out. But let's not bury the lead here. You need to get out of your online Buckeye cult. Stop listening to online grifters. If you're Sparties like this Justin Spiral, whatever the hell his name is, I don't care. Buckeye Scoop, stop hitting people and drinking and driving. Enjoy your natty, man. You had a great team in season. Too many of you have made yourselves miserable clowns and frankly retards over this. Just looking at you, Ohio. And remember, Ohio State has 12 more vacated wins than Michigan does. Enjoy your weekend.